Hi guys, thanks for stopping by to check out this video. So if you're not aware, I have been looking into Norway and researching Norway a bit and creating some designs and drawings in my bullet journal. But today I'm working in my sketchbook and I am going to basically show you how I start with a drawing, and I'm going to draw polar bears. So let's get started and I'll show you how I do it. So firstly, I am working from a photo and I'm going to work from this one here. I'll put it on the screen. So I'm basically looking at a front-on version of a polar bear. So I'm just going to do some practice of their face. So I just start with like a rough circle. That gives us like the rough outline of where their head is. Within that, across like a center line here, we're going to put a couple of circles to represent the eyes. And then if there was a line straight down the face, we would see that the nose is kind of lower down about here. That's where the top is. And it's quite a large nose in comparison to the eyes. So already we're going to make it around that size. It's actually quite deep, so I'm going to thicken that up. And then he's got his little, I don't know what this is called. What is this thing that animals have? Joins their nose to their mouth. I need to find the term for that. And then what I would do as well is I find that in line with the eyes is usually the sides of the snout or the nose. So I'm gonna run sort of some lines down there and they're slightly curved. And then already you're kind of getting a rough guide of what the polar bear looks like. And now just following the image, we can just neaten everything up, add in a little bit more detail. So there's sort of some almond shapes here. And they've got really dark black eyes. I'm leaving just a little bit of highlight here. And then their nose is really black as well. So I'm placing in the nostrils. And then you really can't see any more detail. So what I'm going to do is just use shading to shade it in. So I just put my pencil on a 45-degree angle to shade. I'm using a mechanical pencil, but obviously any pencil that you're comfortable with is good. And then in the nostrils, it is darker than everywhere else. So I color that in really, really dark. And then we can add in his mouth down here. So he's just got like a darkness where it goes in, and then it comes under here for his chin. And then I'm just adding some shading to down near this end of his snout, because that's where it's the most shaded. Everything else is mostly white. So I'm just going to leave all those areas as the paper. And then I can also see that the tufts of fur come out from this center line. So the direction of the fur growth kind of is going out like that. I'm just putting in little strokes to show that. And you know, depending on how detailed you want to be, you can add in all the fur throughout. But this is just a little quick sketch. So I just want to be really quick with it. Okay, so that gives us the rough guide. Now we can add this guy that I'm working from is quite large. It's got a lot of fur. So I'm going to put the top of his head, because he's got a few more rolls, and kind of like this. And then the ear comes from these points here. So I'm just using like a rough guide. I look at the space between things. So the space between the eye to the nose is roughly the same between the space from the eye to the ear. And then it's kind of circular. Just chuck in that shape. Match it up over here. And that gives you your ear placement. And then it's just a little bit darker inside. And then you can continue more layers of rolls if you want to, depending on the kind of bear you want to sort of draw. And that gives you a very roly-poly bear to work from. And then just get rid of your lines. Okay, so next, before I continue, I just want to shade a little bit around there. So I'm just trying to give you an idea of how I would start with just small sketches. Okay, so that's one, but now I want to have a look at like a profile shot of a polar bear. So I found an image to work from again. I'll put that on screen now. So this one is definitely more profile, not direct profile, but we'll try and get the shape of the head. So kind of start with a circle. It's kind of the skull, and then kind of comes forward. This is the line of the head at the top, and then bring in the snout shape. So what I'm trying to say here is that bring all the elements, like all the shapes that you can see, onto your page really lightly first. I often will just kind of try and get my outline sorted and then work the elements inside. Okay, so here at this top part is the nose. And then put in the details of that nose. Okay, and then I'm working backwards. At the front of that snout would end there, so you know the eye is going to sit just in behind it. And this time it's on the side, so eyelid would come slightly down and then up into the corner bit, which extends there. And once again, put in all the blackness. And then this guy's got a little bit, you can see a little bit of the eyelid here. This guy's fur is a bit wet, so you would see a lot more of the shading happening around each of the fur areas. And then on the other side of the snout, you can see just a glimpse of the eye. So I just put in a little bit of that. Bring in the eyebrow, and then the head kind of comes through there. And it sort of comes all the way back, and then it's going down back of his neck. Sort of looks like a dog right now. And this guy, he's got his ear down, like he's heard something in the distance. So I'm just putting in that shape back here, keeping it in line so the top of the ear would be in line with that, but it's just kind of sitting backwards. And then coming back over to the face. Here we've got his mouth is almost smiling. He's a happy little polar bear. Okay, and then slightly in for his lip. And then all this area is quite dark in here because it's in the shadow. Color it in. And then he is got lots of wet clusters of fur. So I'm just going to put a few bits of fur, which I just do really light little, what do you call them? Spikes, zigzags. Little hatches, and then his body's coming down from there. So slightly less of a dog now. So you can see how basic the elements are for a polar bear. You've really got nose, eyes, ears, and if you've got the shape right, I think you can tell that it's a polar bear pretty straightforward. So now I'm just going to darken everything up and maybe add a few fur bits. All right, so next study, I'm going to do a body shot of the polar bear. So we kind of know how the head looks from the side, we know how it looks from the front, and now we can work on the body. And for this one, I'll go for this image. So how I would start is map out the shapes of the framework of the body first. So the head, back here. So you can kind of see the shape coming together, sort of like a kidney bean. And I'm just following all the contours of the body really, just trying to make it look like the image. Now I'm bringing in the snout. And then the front leg. And then one of the back legs. And then the other back leg. Okay, so already I feel like I've lost some space at the back, so I'm just gonna fix that. They're actually longer than I expected. And then we go back to the front leg, which is holding most of the weight. Okay, so now you've got the shape. So I'm just gonna add in some contrast now, showing like the values between the grays that are set back in the back legs, where things are in shade, and it'll just kind of start to bring it to life a little bit. Okay, I feel like I've made his snout too long. I'm going to shorten it. In fact, his whole head maybe is a bit small. Sorry, too big. I'm gonna shrink it. Shrink it down. That's better. Okay, and that gives us a little quick body study. Now, normally I would go in and really try to perfect these drawings, but that's not what I'm gonna do today because I just wanted to show you a rough idea of how you could sketch and practice sketching at home in your journals. But let's move on. I feel like making a proper watercolor painting of a polar bear. So that's what I'm gonna do now. So now that I've done some studies, I really wanna work with watercolor. I found my image that I'm gonna use. I'll put it here. This is my reference, and I'm just going to focus on him and then try and work with the watercolor to get some of those beautiful highlights and shades that are on the polar bear. I'm not sure whether I'm gonna keep it realistic colored or maybe go a little bit different, but we'll see what happens. So what I'm hoping I've done there is just give myself a little guide of where to go with the watercolor, and just the really dark stuff I always like to put in the pen anyway, because I don't have a brush that fine to get finer details, so I just think putting it in pen makes it a little bit easier to work with. So now for the, oh, what have I done here? Jeez. Now for the watercolor. Let's set up. So I'm going to wet the entire area of my polar bear. Okay, so the watercolor has dried now, but I could leave it like this, but it's not quite what I was after. So I'm going to try adding some more detail to the polar bear with some colored pencils. And there we are. So I finished my double spread in my sketchbook. We have the starter sketches, just a little bit of play around and get your hands warmed up, get used to drawing polar bears. And then the final piece, which I'm very glad that I went in with the colored pencils and a bit of the gouache, just to add some more detail, because I wasn't happy before, but now I am. And now I'm feeling the cold and it's time for a cold beverage. Hope you guys have a great weekend and thank you for watching. Bye.